Welcome, everybody, to Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Haig John, and I'm really excited to have Dr. Jack Bourla, president of Sherman College of Chiropractic, with me today. And I'm really happy to connect with you, learn more about you, because, hey, you're the man of the hour now, the president of the chiropractic school. So, welcome to Interviews.
Thank
Good to
you.
have you tonight.
Thank you. It's great to be with you always.
Well, thank you. Well, tell me a little bit about you. We met years ago in San Francisco at Lyceum at Life West.
Yeah.
And I've got a funny story about that one. Okay. You reminded me about it not long ago. But, I was reading your bio a little bit, restaurateur.
Mhm.
You were, what is it? Why don't you tell me a little bit about your history? What's got you to this point? Where are you from originally, actually?
Well, interesting that you would ask. I'm from California,
Hmm.
and my parents came to the United States from Algeria.
Okay.
So my father was very entrepreneurial, and he heard that the streets in America were paved with gold, and he wanted some. So he dragged my mother across the Atlantic Ocean in a boat, not a rowboat, but like a ship, the Queen Mary,
Gotcha.
made their way to New York. From New York, they heard that there was an French Algerian community in San Francisco. So they made their way to San Francisco, which is where they had my sister and me. So we were born in San Francisco and raised in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. Um, and so as a kid, as a Jewish boy, I really only had two choices as to what I was going to do in life. One, I could either be an attorney, or two, I could be a medical doctor.
Hmm.
And even at the early age, I thought, I don't want to argue with people all day long because that's what marriage is for. So I didn't do that. So
Right.
I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. And what I
Okay.
wanted to do, Haig, was I wanted to be a cosmetic surgeon
Hmm.
for disfigured kids.
Hmm.
Back when we were younger, they had these things called magazines. These are amazing, but they don't have any. Maybe they do. I don't know. But back then they had magazines, and Life magazine in particular would every year publish pictures of these children with cleft palates and tumors and skin disorders,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it broke my heart. And so I thought I'm going to do my best to take care of these kids. And so I was going to go to medical school, become a cosmetic surgeon, and take care of these kids. I was going to join Doctors Without Borders,
Hmm.
which is an organization that flies doctors all over the world, providing
Wonderful.
these services for free. And
Hmm.
that was going to be my destiny. And so I went to college. I did some molecular biology as an undergraduate. I did master's work in physiology and behavioral biology, and I'm on my way to medical school. And then I met a girl, and that girl derailed me essentially. She was a little bit older than me. She had two children from a previous marriage, and so I was faced at a relatively young age of, do I go to medical school or do I do this family thing? And I
Hmm.
chose the family thing.
Hmm.
So I taught for 2 years at San Francisco State University through the biology department. I was a family planning counselor for 2 years.
Hmm.
I worked at Stanford University Blood Center and ran the blood center. And while I was there, I became very good friends with the two medical directors who one day said to me, "We want to start a biotech company. Will you run it for us?" And I said, "Absolutely." So they asked me, "Can you do this thing?" I said, "Yes." "Can you do that?" "Yes." "Can you do?" They asked me, "Can you do all these things?" And I said, "Yes" to everything. They never once asked me, "Have you done these things before?" Which I had not, but I figured I could learn. Um,
Absolutely.
so I spent 10 years of my life in biotechnology and loved it. It was in the 80s. They paid us gobs of money, gave us stock like it was candy. And after about 10 years, I realized that my boss was a senior vice president. I was a director, and I had reached the pinnacle. And so I thought, I'm going to take this money that I've accumulated and I'm going to do something really great with it. And so I bought 3 restaurants.
Hmm.
The dumbest thing, Haig, I've ever done in my life. So I had 3 restaurants. I had a very high end. I bought this restaurant. It's in the National Restaurant Hall of Fame. I had a supper club and I had a Chinese restaurant. Because if you want really good Chinese food, who do you ask? A,
A
a
Jewish
Jewish
man.
guy, a Jewish
Yeah.
guy, right? So I had these 3 restaurants, 5 years of my life, 16-hour days, 6 days a week. It was
Wow.
awful. And
Yeah.
after 5 years, I said, I'm done. I'm now 39 years old, and I'm faced with the decision, what do I do with the rest of my life? And I'd always known that I want to help people, which is why I want to do that cosmetic surgery for the kids. And I thought, what am I going to do? Well, as the universe would have it, God put in my path an idea. And my wife, one New Year's Day, woke up unable to move her legs.
Wow.
We had gone out the night before, everything was fine. For unknown reasons, she woke up, couldn't move her legs. So I put her in the car, took her to the emergency room. They admitted her, they imaged her, they injected her, they medicated her, they did all the things that they thought they could help her. And by 3:30 in the afternoon, there was no change in her condition. They said, that's all we can do. Let's see what time we'll do for you. And maybe see your doctor, your primary doctor tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I put her back at the car, distraught, went home. And on New Year's Day, I always call my friends to wish them Happy New Year. And I happened to talk to one of my buddies, and I told what happened. He says, why don't you call my chiropractor? And my first question to him was, what's a chiropractor? Because I didn't know. And he said, well, he does this and this. I said, what is he going to do that this modern medical facility with all their equipment and all their doctors couldn't do? He says, I don't know. He's helped me call him. I said, it's New Year's Day. He says, call him anyway. So Haig, he gave me his phone. I called this guy.
Yeah.
He answered his phone on New Year's Day. I could hear kids in the background. And the first thought is, this man is either desperate for business or he's crazy, or perhaps both. Maybe he's both.
Probably both.
Probably both. Like, like people we know. So I explained to him what my predicament was. I told him I was referred by his patient. And he said to me, I really can't do anything without seeing her. I'm going to have to see her to do an evaluation, see if perhaps if she has this thing that I look for, if she has it, maybe I can help her. I said, well, that'd be terrific. I said, when can we do this? He said, 5:30. I said, great. Well, where are you located? And he told me he was located. I said, I'll see you tomorrow at 5:30. He says, no. I'll see you today at 5:30.
Wow.
And I said, but doctor, it's New Year's Day. He goes, oh, I know what day it is, but I took an oath.
Amen.
And those words have never left my head. I took an oath.
Wow.
This told me this man was committed. Nonetheless, at 5:30, I put her in the car, take her to his office. He greets us. He's kind. He's informative. He's got this beautiful office. It had these weird tables that went up and down. I'd never seen this before. I thought it was like a circus act or something. Anyway, he explains to us what he's looking for. He does then the most thorough evaluation, way more so than what happened at the hospital. Took x-rays, even though she could barely stand. I had to hold her up.
Sure.
He says, I think she has what I can help her with. And I know now what he was talking about, the vertebral subluxation. Back then, I had no idea.
Sure.
Puts her on this table, gets on top of her. And I said, dude, what are you doing? He says, trust me. He does this thing, which we now know is the adjustment. I hear that crunching sound.
Yep.
And she walked out. As
Wow.
God is my judge, she walked out. And so I said, holy smokes, if he can help her, I've got all kinds of issues, mostly here, but I got all kinds of issues. So she and I went every Friday at 4:00, and we never missed an appointment unless we were out of town or his office was closed for the holiday or something. And hey, we didn't go because we had headaches or back pain or neck pain or amen. We went because we knew we functioned better, and he had educated us in that our body would function better. And so now I'm 39 years old, faced with the decision, what do I do with the rest of my life? And I thought, I'll look at the chiropractic colleges. And so fortunately for us in the San Francisco Bay Area, we had two. We had Life West, which is where you and I met, and we had Palmer West. And so I did my research and I figured Palmer West, the founders of this profession were named Palmer. I should probably go there. And so I went as a 39-year-old. I was the oldest guy in my class. And the very first day that I sat there, I thought, why didn't I do this when I was 22? But that wasn't my destiny.
Yeah.
My destiny was to do it then. So I applied myself. I studied really, really hard. I graduated valedictorian in my class.
Wow, congratulations.
Oh, I know. So, they give you a medal when you graduate with a thing, like a necklace thing.
Sure.
I used to work at Starbucks every day. and you know what they would tell me?
What'd they tell you?
$2.50 for the cup of coffee, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't care about it. And
now it's $5.50.
Right? Yeah, now it's a lot more. But but the point is that it doesn't matter. Now I look back. For me, I applied myself because I wanted to do well. I wanted to learn.
Of course.
But you learn what you need to learn. You become the person that you're supposed to become. And so I graduated and I opened my own office. And it took a while to get it going because I didn't know how to run that business. I knew how to run restaurants. I knew how to run biotechnology. I knew how to teach. but I didn't know how to run a chiropractic office.
Hmm.
But once I learned what I had to do, things started to take off, and I had a most beautiful practice for 25 years.
Wonderful.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, so that's what I did.
Well,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
All right. So I had this practice, and after 25 years, I said, I'm going to retire. I'm getting to be an old guy now. Uh,
Hmm.
so I thought I'm going to retire, and so I sold my practice to actually the woman who was right next door to me, who's a
Hmm.
chiropractor. I helped her to get into that office because by the way, there's no competition in chiropractic.
That's right.
Despite what people think, there's
Hmm.
8.3 billion people on this planet, and there's not enough chiropractors to service all of them. So
Absolutely true.
so if the listeners think for a split second that there's competition in this profession, wipe that out of your mindset because that's not the truth. In fact, I think the more chiropractors that the public sees, the more their curiosity might be raised and they might
Hmm.
be enticed to want to come in. So I sold my practice to this woman, and my wife and I bought a house in Idaho on a lake because that's where she wanted to be, on a lake. And our thought was, we're just going to retire and that's that. And then one day I got a call from a friend of mine who said, "Hey, did you know that Sherman College is looking for a new president?" I said, "I didn't know that because Edward Cordell is a dear friend of mine. I've known him for years before he was president." I said, "I didn't know he was retired." He goes, "Yeah." He says, I said, "What a great opportunity for somebody." He goes, "Yeah, I thought so too." He says, "I nominated you." And I said, "Dude, I thought we were friends. What do you mean you nominated me?" He says, "I think you should do it." He and I had worked in chiropractic politics together. I said, "No, I bought a house. We're going to retire. We're going to go to Idaho." He says, "Think about it." I said, "I'm not even going to think about it." But I did. And so my wife and our kids talked about it. We thought, what's the worst thing I can apply and not get accepted? We'll still go to Idaho. So I applied and I went through the interview process, and it got down to 6 of us. And one Sunday afternoon, I got a call from the chairman of the board of trustees who said, "We have selected you to be the sixth president of Sherman College." And after I got done crying,
Hmm.
because I'm one of those wet guys, after I got done crying, I said to him, "I want you to be really, really honest with me." He said, "Of course I will be." I said, "You said you selected me." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did the other five drop out? I'm the only one left, or did you really select me?" He said, "No, no, we selected you." I said, "In that case, I'm coming."
Yeah.
So I started working here at Sherman College on December 1st, 2022. I was blessed with the opportunity to overlap with Dr. Cordero for about 18 days.
Hmm.
He showed me the best Puerto Rican restaurants in Spartanburg County. And we got to share meals together. We spent a lot of time together, and he introduced me to the campus. And from that point on, I was on my own, and here I am, a little over 2 years later, thinking, how come I'm so blessed to have this job?
Well, we're grateful for you. And, carrying that torch is such a responsibility. And Dr. Cordero, he's going to be on. We're going to release his in just a couple of days.
Awesome.
And, his mission is grand. We had some similarities as well in our journey. And you and I now have some similarities. My father came over here on the Queen Mary as well from England.
Yep.
And he was a medical doctor and had gone to law school, became a medical doctor as well. And he pushed me in the same direction. And I realized in law school, I don't fit this mold. And similar to you, I like some peace. And, everybody wanted to argue the color of your shirt and the sharpness of your pencil.
Oh
And
yeah.
I said, this isn't quite for me. And, I had a blessing of a great friend of mine. I went to University of San Diego, lived in San Diego for years. A lot of my family are still in California. And he had said, "Hey, you know what? You are very similar. You remind me of this guy I just went to Palm Springs, is my buddy's dad. You should be a chiropractor." And that's all I could think about.
Yeah.
And I went to, with the Dewey Decimal System way back in the day. I'm looking through the card catalog for chiropractic. There's nothing.
Nothing.
So in a
Exactly.
way, it's like this faith of chiropractic had helped me before. And I wanted to go to a chiropractor as a kid because my neighbors was my buddy I skateboarded with was so excited about chiropractic. And my dad was, "Oh, geez, no way. What about chiropractic?" But it
Yeah.
really saved my life. And it was when it becomes a mission within you,
Mm.
there's no way to say no. Just go hell or high water, right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I started at 30 years old. I was 30 years old when I started Life University,
Yeah.
and I was going to go to Cleveland and LA. And I thought, God, I don't want to live in Los Angeles. Life University was wonderful. We had a great time, but the fatherly push in one direction was sort of the catalyst as well, though, going into caring for people and that which is in our souls innately in some way or another.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the reins at Sherman College of Chiropractic. It's a
Thank
beautiful campus.
Yeah.
And we were there a couple of years ago, and you invited us into the presidential mansion, I'll call it, and we had a philosophy night
Yeah,
impromptu in your living room
we
because
did.
we got rained out in our fire pit, which is so cool to have at Sherman College, in the woods there. It was such a nice place.
Yeah.
So, have you started any, where do you see the future of Sherman College going? How do you feel now? You've gotten a couple of years in now, which really that's just getting, your own ball rolling and your own systems happening. So maybe tell us about where do you see the future for Sherman?
Sure. Well, the one thing is after 2 years, I now know where all the restrooms are. So
Smart.
that's number one. So one of the things that we want to do at Sherman is we don't want to change our mission. Our mission is very focused. It's focused around the location and the analysis and assisting the body to correct vertebral subluxation, not for symptomatology, but for life expression. And this is something that has been passed down for decades, many, many decades.
Oh
And
yes.
this is something that Tom and Betty Gilardi set out to do when they opened up Sherman College. Tom was a student at Palmer when he decided, when I can, I'm going to open up a chiropractic college whose purpose is to maintain the purity. We call it the sacred trust.
Mhm.
Um, Unfortunately, I think for some people, it's become the sacrificed trust,
Sure.
and not on my watch. Um, I believe so strongly in what chiropractic can do, and it's from a personal story. If we have time, I'll tell you the personal
Sure.
story. But from Sherman College, we are going to maintain the purity of chiropractic and until either they boot me or something happens. Because I made a commitment to Tom and Betty Gilardi, who I adore, who are still alive and they're still vital and they're just great. They're vibrant. They live about 25 miles from here, and they come by every couple 2 or 3 weeks. We have lunch together, and it's great to talk about the history. It was also great to talk about what's the future going to look like. So the future for chiropractic here at Sherman is we're going to maintain the purity of chiropractic. We want to grow our enrollment. So we have a very aggressive 5-year strategic plan, which was just approved by our board of trustees, and it started January 1st. We're going to increase our enrollment by 63%. And in order to do that, we need to have help.
Yeah.
And so people like you
Yeah.
refer students to us, and we graciously accept them, and we then train them into the system of chiropractic, which is there's a philosophy, there's a science, there's an art, there's also a business to it, by the way.
Definitely.
And I think one of the biggest components, which I know that you and I both strive to have, and that's a big heart. You have to have a heart to serve. And so if you're not willing to serve, maybe this is not the right profession for you. But if you have a desire to help people and you really want to serve and you are just enthralled by this philosophy, science, and art like I am, and I know like you are, chiropractic is probably a really great thing for you to look into. So we're going to increase our enrollment. We're going to make sure that our public professional image is pristine. We're going to go out in the community and we're going to be doing research in this county. This is a small county. We have 7 colleges and universities.
Wow.
So I know, which is great, and 28 high schools, by the way. So I
Fantastic.
have been out meeting the presidents, chancellors, excuse me, of the other colleges, establishing a relationship so we can have some trust and credibility, and we've become quite friendly with many of them. And so we're going to be doing research with that common research with them. We're servicing their athletic teams. So that's one way for us to get out in the community. We
Absolutely.
want to make sure that through this training process of 3.5 years, 14 quarters, our students are one exposed very deep into the philosophy, to the science and to the art, and also to the business, so that when they leave here, they can service their debt. Because as you know, student debt's a big, big thing.
Yes, yes.
But our goal and our hope and our charter is to make sure that our students leave with three qualities. They have to have a conviction about what they do. So we want them certain, confident, and competent at being chiropractors in their offices, no matter how they choose to. You go to 10 different chiropractors and you see 10 different ways.
Right.
And that's all good. We want to make sure that our graduates know that their job is to locate these vertebral subluxations, analyze them, see which is the best way to address them, and then go ahead and make the adjustment when necessary. And I emphasize when necessary, because not everybody needs to be adjusted on every single visit. And if they are, then maybe you need to recheck what your systems are. Because if you went to your dentist and they drilled the same molar every time, you say there's a problem. So same thing with if you're getting banged on by the chiropractor every time, say there's probably something wrong with the analysis. Nonetheless, what we do know is that the body has this incredible ability to adapt and be well. And we talked about adaptation just before we started the interview. It's important for us to recognize that the qualities, this innate intelligence which we have, which was what separates chiropractic from other professions.
Yeah.
We have this innate intelligence which adapts. We're constantly adapting all the time, whether it's temperature, whether it's a pH in our body, whatever it is, our body's constantly adapting to the environment. And the reason it can do this is because we have this innate intelligence. And when innate intelligence is allowed to flow from brain to body, body back to brain, uninterrupted, we can pretty much handle all the things in life that get thrown at us. And so we're going to live a great life. And by the way, health is a byproduct of that. That's not our goal. Our goal is not health, although we'd love to have our people healthy. But when your body's functioning optimally, you're more likely than not going to experience good health.
When the brain's able to talk to its systems effectively, it's able to do what it needs to do. The side effect is the body's able to heal itself efficiently.
Boom,
Right?
just like that. Just like that. So I don't know if you know this, but we, the building in which we see our outpatients used to be called the health center. And so I changed it when I got here to the chiropractic center.
Yeah.
Because if the public's driving up and down the street and they see the word health and they think, oh, I'm already healthy, I don't need to go there. They're going to keep going. But chiropractic center, if they understand what chiropractic truly is, everybody should then recognize I should probably get checked periodically to make sure that my body's functioning optimally, regardless of how I feel.
Well, so what you're kind of really saying is something I've been saying for years. It's the brand. If the brand is health, that's what people are going to seek out. If the brand is seeking a better life and being able to function better, that's why people go to the gym. That's why they eat well. It's why they do those things. But none of that really matters unless you're properly connected from above down and the inside out.
Correct. You have the most organic food and the purest water, but if your body's not able to metabolize those, are you better off with those things? Absolutely.
Definitely.
But you need a clear nerve system. And when your nerve system is clear, really there's not much. I mean, we all have limitations of matter. We get that.
Of course.
When your system's clear, like for example, I will never be Michael Jordan. Never. He'll never be as handsome as me. That's just the reality for him. It's just how it works.
That's how it works. And, but that's the amazingness. And, in one of our podcasts, it's our chiropractic philosophy podcast. I'm looking at the book right now. We're on page 503 of D.D. Palmer's 1910 book. Okay.
Yeah.
And part of what we do is we read it out loud, then we discuss it. We've got lots of gray beards on there. And, but breaking this down because, so many students I see now. I've been teaching for 20 years in seminars. I taught with Arnold Bernier and a lot of different chiropractors out, Jim Sigafus. And so many people are not reading these green books.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I think we're the longest running green book podcast in the world. And we've been doing it since about 2019, but getting this out there for the ages and through the cosmos. And I'll tell you why I say that in a moment, but because a lot of people are just listening now. They're not reading. So we're getting this out. So the students, the I call chirosauruses like me that have been out there long enough, and we want to just get the download. We want to listen to what Dee was saying. Our masterpiece we just finished with BJ Palmer. You can feel the passion in BJ in writing his last book. The year he died, it came out. So there's so much just richness in our philosophy and our history that, it's not, there's not enough time in your schooling to get it all.
Right.
But and we have amazing professors like Dr. Dooley, who's going to be on later on. He's going to be on our podcast. But we have these amazing professors out there teaching the students with such passion.
Yeah.
And so, do you have a program for professors when they come in communication and talking about what your vision is before they begin? You have newer teachers coming into the school.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, we recognize that one of the things that a chiropractor must possess in order to be successful in practice is the ability to communicate.
Yeah.
Right. So the green books are for us. They're for the profession. I don't think we need to hit our patients over the head with green books and make them memorize the 33 principles in order to be patients in our office. That doesn't ring true for me. But we should be so well grounded in who we are and what we do and why we do it. And the way to do that is by reading the green books and the blue books
Oh
and the
yeah.
blue books and the white books that Simon Senzon publishes. So, and then Claude Lessard is also a blue book writer. Claude Lessard is actually going through Stevenson's 1927 textbook, volume 14, the chiropractic textbook. So, how did you just grab it? So,
No, well, I've got one of them, but there's so many, great obscure books of
yes.
chiropractic that are so absolutely important. But yes, I'm listening to Claude Lessard. I can't wait to see that book myself. I don't have one yet.
Yeah. So currently he's got volume 1 and 2 out. So he took Stevenson's textbook and he's rewriting it, not because the philosophy was wrong, but he's clarifying things and he's making it more modern. But still maintaining the gist of the sacred trust, making
Yeah.
sure chiropractic is chiropractic. And I've had the opportunity to edit both those volumes. I'm currently doing volume 3. I'm almost done. I've got 40 more pages to go.
Cool.
And then there'll be a volume 4. But if you pick it up, you can get through the Sherman bookstore. Here's a little plug, selfish plug. You get those from the Sherman bookstore. But here's the thing, there's all the volumes of green books. There's the blue books. There's the red books. There's the Great Undertow. There's all these books. But I think the biggest mistake that we can make as a chiropractor is attempting to understand that by yourself.
Definitely.
You've got to be in a group to discuss. You've got to be people who know more than you. Sean, you know who Sean Dill is?
Yes.
Sean Dill's a dear friend of mine. We were both in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he was practicing on the other side of the bay. And we each had a philosophy group, and we decided to bring them together and form what we call the Alliance. And what we did, Haig, is we took Stevenson's freshman textbook, the freshman section of his textbook, and assigned only 5 pages to individuals who would come on a monthly basis and talk to us in detail about those 5 pages. And if they started to stray, we'd ask them to sit down and we'd get up and finish the discussion. But the intention was, because we had 2 chiropractic colleges, is to have the students come and the graduated doctors come. And so we would have between 40 and 70 people who would show up on a monthly basis to listen to what we would have. We brought Bill Decken in. We brought Bill Decken in. He's the chair of our philosophy department here
That's
at Sherman College.
fabulous.
And he's
Yes.
fabulous. We brought him in over to California, the San Francisco Bay Area, to do a lesson for us. And those 5 pages, you think, what can you learn in 5 pages? You can learn a lot.
Yeah.
You could learn a lot. You could spend a ton of time just studying the 33 principles and making understanding from those. What's interesting, as you read the 33 principles, and I'm sure you know this, there's never once mentioned the word health in the 33 principles. Never once. Life is mentioned and living is mentioned 15 times. But health is not mentioned because the intention early on was not health, it was about life expression.
Yeah.
It talks about the signs of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fascinated by the thinking that went on back then, because these guys were geniuses. And they were Masons, and so they had ways of doing things. If you look at the 33 principles and you talk about the signs of life, where the signs of life are first discussed in detail? On page 33 of Stevenson's textbook. Was that by chance or by design? I believe it's by design.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that there's a wealth of information. If you looked at my Stevenson's book, it's held together by monster tape because the pages are falling. I've got highlights, I've got cross references, I've got questions because there are mistakes in there. Believe it or not, there are some mistakes in there because he's human. And we have the luxury of looking back now after many, many years after having had that published, 200 years or 100 years, and saying there's clarity that needs to be made here. And so Claude Lassard is in the process of making that clarification for us, so that when we get together in groups of philosophers,
Yeah.
we can talk intelligently and we can question.
That we've done in our Synapse Philosophy group, we've gone through the 33 principles. We go through the senior text.
Yeah.
And the senior text, you're just getting a little bit deeper explanation as he goes through it, which is just so beautiful to read. And you can, again, like, you could feel the passion coming through there. And a lot of, go through most of these writings. And when we look at those 33 principles, a lot of it does come from D.D. Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, D.D. and Stevenson at the day, they're speaking in quantum physics before quantum physics existed.
Yes.
They're making up language of explanation to explain to us, the learned chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily for the people, like you say. And I think that's an important distinction, because it's to give you, this is how important, how powerful it is to understand what we're doing, that you're delivering to the people, because the people deserve you to be your best, because the denizens of the earth deserve chiropractic. And I love the 33 principles, and we keep going back. We've done it twice in our podcast. This is just so powerful.
Yeah.
And I take everything, each time I read them, I'm reading them with new eyes. I have 2 copies here, and I can't find one, right, because I have so much research I'm doing, and I have earmarks everywhere on them. And I had to use 2 because I had so much of the highlighting in there. I got confused what I was doing with the new stuff. It is so important for us to get into it.
Yeah.
And, I'm really grateful for them, because what it really did was save my chiropractic life at one time. I felt
what
like,
way?
and I'll tell you, because, starting off at chiropractic school, and, I was at Life University, great school. We had, Dr. Sid Williams at the time. And, but even within weaving our way through understanding what we're doing when we're studying biochemistry and all the stuff that we need to study, I guess, to get our degrees, I needed something that was more chiropractic and to bring me into the why. Okay, because I came in with a passion that a chiropractor in Pacific Beach. I went to I was in an auto accident, and my friend's father was a lawyer, and I was at University of San Diego, and I thought this was the opportunity for me to get to a chiropractor. So I went to the guy that he sent me to. I never met the chiropractor, never. They squirted some jelly on my back, waved some magic wands, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And we can call those all sorts of things, but they call us doing hocus pocus. But in reality, I never met the chiropractor, never heard of subluxation, never was adjusted.
Yeah.
But thank goodness, and I think this was a blessing, they burned my back with a ultrasound or whatever. She just left it there. And I jumped off the table, and I'm sure I was very kind, but I doubt it. And I left. And I say this, I went to Dr. David Libbs on Garnett Street in PB in Pacific Beach. And it just said Libbs Chiropractic. And I walked in and I said, "Can you help me?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll help you."
Yeah.
And he said, "You got a subluxation." Like I said, I was at University of San Diego. I have multiple degrees from there and other stuff. And I never heard of a subluxation. And my father was internal medicine.
Yeah.
And he adjusted me. Let me go back a little bit. I was sleeping in a recliner at 21 years old, living on Mission Bay in a beautiful house, and I couldn't even breathe. I was having reflux at 21 years old. I couldn't read a page, and while I was studying, wouldn't stick in my brain. We could call calls of labels, all kinds of labels for that.
Yeah.
And I was literally, I think I was dying at 21 years old because of a subluxation. He adjusted me. I figured out he was a Gonstead man eventually, because I learned how to do seated. I was like, oh, that's my first adjustment, was a seated cervical. And he told me what a subluxation was, and ultimately saved my life. My grades started going back up. I could sleep in a normal bed again, wasn't having reflux and wasn't having all these problems.
Yeah.
And I still hadn't decided to become a chiropractor.
Mm.
But that was the catalyst really to save my life. And I
Yeah.
look at it in this sense because it wasn't for me, it was the people that I've served.
Yeah.
And I love taking care of babies. They don't complain as much, but but I love taking care of babies and families and mommies, and that's the type of practice I like to have.
Hmm.
Okay,
I gotta ask, can I ask you a quick question
go
before you go?
ahead.
So you had difficulty studying and retaining.
Yeah,
So what specific adjustment did he have for that? Because don't you have a specific adjustment for that?
no,
Oh,
he cleared. Well, for it wasn't just for studying. He cleared my atlas. He cleared my subluxation. He didn't even
yeah,
tell me what bone it was.
yeah.
Cleared my subluxation, and I began to function better. Okay,
Oh, so he didn't have a therapeutic adjustment for
not a
you.
therapeutic adjustment. Again, thank you for
Oh,
that clarity. I apologize. I apologize. Thank you for that clarity. He didn't adjust me for my reflux, but I was going through different problems in my body. I wasn't working well.
yeah.
So he didn't therapeutically adjust me. He said, "You got a subluxation. It's messing you up, dude. It's messing
And
you
that's
up."
it. And it's as simple as that. And
Yeah,
we make such a complicated mess out of it.
exactly. Exactly
Compli-
right.
Yeah. So let's go back because you made a very interesting point that you love to read the senior chapter of Stevenson's textbook.
Yes.
And as you go through the freshman, the sophomore, the junior, and senior text, it's
Mhm.
progressively more detailed,
That's right.
deeper conversations that we had. And the one interesting part about the senior text, unlike the freshman, sophomore, and junior text, is that there's no questions at the end of that book.
Mhm.
Then that section, because
Interesting
Stephen said
perspective.
by the time you become in the senior text, you should have no more questions. Your
Hmm.
questions should have been answered. Now, I wish that was so, because I still
True.
have, as I'm sure you do, lots of questions as we read it. Because you said they were talking about quantum physics before quantum physics was really even identified
Yeah.
as an entity. There were thoughts around it, but they didn't know what it was.
Hmm.
So for those people who have an interest in going deeper into the philosophy, there's ways to do that. One is to get involved in your classes, your teaching groups. The other is, and again, another selfish plug for Sherman, is we have this thing called the Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers, the ACP program. And then we just recently launched the DA, the Diplomate American Academy of Chiropractic Philosophers, which are year-long programs where you get with a class and you meet periodically throughout the year and you have assignments and you dig deep into the philosophy. And knowing that you have someone like Bill Declan, who is running this thing, you know it's going to be in its purest form, and you know it's going to be explained to you in simple terms that almost anybody can understand.
Yeah.
And that's the magic, I think, for philosophy. You could be, like Shakespeare and do all this stuff and wear, an ascot, or you can be very down to earth and explain things to people that you're serving
Yeah.
about what their body's doing as a result of the chiropractic care that they're receiving. And when you do it very simply, you're gonna have a beautiful practice for many, many years and years.
One other thing that I think about all the time about Stevenson, because in the senior text, there's a moment, I forgot where it was, very close to the beginning, but he said, I want you to look at these, because, photograph just began at the time. As a child looking at a photograph and looking for the rest of the people on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
looking with a child's eyes. This is not set in stone. You are going to grow with this as you're looking at it with new eyes every day as you grow in an individual. That this is for you to grow with. And I take that to heart, because it's not A and B. We're not only talking about this is the one way to see it, that's it. You're going to grow with it as you grow deeper into our philosophy, as a server, as a man for me or a woman for someone else, and whatever may be. So, ultimately it's not a chiseled in stone. This is it. The only
Right.
way to look at it. You're going to grow with that, just like you're saying. We get, these great philosophers coming out and giving us deeper understandings with the lexicon that we have, now as individuals, and right now it's 2025, we're going to grow in, at 35 in the next 500 years of chiropractic, we're going to be able to look back and say, okay, we've grown as individuals or have a deeper understanding of philosophy. And, even the science of now, they weren't able to study the neuron the way that we are studying now. How amazing, right?
All the tools that we have thermography, and that's great, but we have cone beam CT, and we have functional MRI, so we can look at both the anatomical component and the neurological component of the vertebral subluxation to make better choices for the people that we care for. And I think that's what it comes down to.
That's very powerful stuff. Like one of my chiropractors here, he does Epic, and I get my Atlas checked and cleared. I held my Atlas for a month and a half just recently, and people say, innate adjusting, and you don't do this and you don't do that. And I said, where do you ever get that from? I mean, of course we use imaging. I have Titrons, but what we do focus on is the magic, amazingness of palpation. And understanding the body is its own instrument. We have to understand our own touch, trust it. But then we're also getting images, understanding the dynamics of the movement of the atlas. I started off as an upper cervical guy. Nuka was my first thing that I went towards. And my mentor in Toggle was Dr. Clarence Jensen, who was at Clearview with BJ and taught me his x-ray analysis directly from BJ Palmer. And I feel so blessed. I have all my notes of his, in frames on the wall and those type of things. But it's not about not doing this because this is my dogma, but understanding every portion and part of the tools we are given, and then the amazing technology that's out there. We use, surface electromyography as well in my office. We use Titrons, we get x-rays and those type of things. I don't have a cone beam, but the geek in me really wants one.
One day soon.
Well, one day soon, and they're not actually that expensive. I thought they would be outrageous. You can buy them used. Hopefully they go down far enough. We'll get into that another time.
Sure.
But when we're talking about the advancement, I talked about bringing, chiropractic into the cosmos. So I'm going to plug my paper for a moment that I sent you recently. Is where are we going in this future, right? The future. I'm on the Space Coast here of Florida, and I have to say, at my paper, I just got to Marty Rosen. I just did his infant cranial seminar for this 4th time. I love him, and him and Nancy Watson, and he's on the board of the Asian Spine Journal. So I got him, and that and another paper. I'll send you this one too. Awesome. Because I see it's where we're going to go. If the rest of the world is talking about leaving Earth, why shouldn't the green books be on or uploaded into a database for the cosmos to have? It should be on the golden discs out to infinity, and really something that we can have approach where we're training flight teams to be able to care for themselves, and where I see chiropractic really being there's no tools to add to a payload, billions of dollars for every gram to lift off the earth, where we can train these to serve humanity to the stars and beyond, is what I like to say. So where do you see this future? Where are we going for chiropractic?
I don't think as big as you in terms of the cosmos. My wife does. She was fascinated by your paper because she's an honest to God rocket scientist, and she does want to work with you on that project. I think that there's 8.3 billion people on this planet, and we're seeing such a tiny percent. I'd like to take care of the people that we have here, and maybe do the Martians later. But I'd like to take care of the people that we have here, and the only way we're going to do it is to produce more and better chiropractors. And the way we do that is to make sure we have the appropriate schools that are teaching this type of thing that we're talking about. And it's really not very complicated. I think in chiropractic, we made a couple of mistakes early on. One is we call ourselves doctors of chiropractic. I think we should have been called chiropractors, so we didn't confuse the public, and we certainly would have confused ourselves. And then we got into the medical insurance billing, which I think has set us back a bit because in the public's eye, they're and in medicine's eye, we now look like we're competitors, and we're not competitors at all. We're contemporary. We are contemporary life enhancement. That's what we do. So we're really not competing with anybody. Our philosophy is so unique,
Mm-hmm.
and for us to be pigeonholed into this therapeutic model is quite limiting. There's enough people doing that. There are very few people doing what we're talking about, which is life enhancement. And so I see if we could kind of rebrand ourselves from neck pain and back pain and sciatica to how do you want to live your life?
Yeah.
Do you want, and you'll never know how great your life is until you become great. And so one of the ways you can become great is to make sure that you're connected
Yeah.
above, down, inside out. And there are people who will balk at that. And I get that. I get that. Try it before you knock it. Give it a shot. There's this thing called combination without investigation. It's an old concept. I think it's from the 17th century in England, but it's people condemning things before they've really even looked at it. And what bothers me is that in our profession, we have people who are boohooing the green books, never having read them.
That's right.
Same thing with the green books, and even Simon Senzon's white book. I got to do a plug for Simon just for a second. I hope you don't mind, but if you truly are interested in understanding chiropractic philosophy and history, then you've got to be a member of the Institute Chiropractic.
Tick. Yeah.
Right. This is Simon Senzon's baby. He's got books. He's got videos. He's got interviews. Very few people are as well entrenched in chiropractic as Simon Senzon, and so support him to support yourself to support the profession by becoming a member of the Institute Chiropractic.
I'm going to put a link on here because I
Awesome.
just released it today of our interview with Simon Senzon.
Oh, good.
And I tell you, I didn't want to stop because I love the guy and his information is amazing. We talked about obscure chiropractic philosophy and history, which I absolutely love because the men and women, the shoulders we stand on are the warriors for chiropractic to serve humanity. And so we had an awesome podcast, and I want everybody to listen to it. All his links are there. We're going to put your links on there too. For there's ROAR program, the donation program. I hosted a student meeting with when Dr. Neil Cohen. I call him the best looking man in chiropractic. They confuse us sometimes, but we had him come out, and we invited students in our area. I sent messages to all the coaches around. We have a few colleges around me, a lot of students looking for where the next steps are. And so we invited our whole community, and we had Dr. Neil Cohen come in, and we had some students very, very interested. And I think maybe one or two started, and some are thinking about it. And that was a couple of years ago. We need to do another one.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll support you any way we can to make that a successful evening for you.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd love to see chiropractors doing that around the world and, creating this abundance for, Sherman. It is where we're looking at it now is the icon of chiropractic and philosophy. And I want to come and do that program sometime. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And amazing because we are the generation to pass on to the next.
That's right.
So how well we have that tick within us, I think, is extremely important.
Absolutely correct.
Well, I thank you so much for being with me today and us and sharing all this with the world. We have, thousands of people from, all from Europe, South America, Mexico, all those chiropractic schools, Brazil, they come in and, we get messages from them quite often. So if we get some questions, I'll send them along to you as well. Okay.
Thank you. Absolutely. Our job is this. Our job is yes, we love Sherman. Absolutely. Sherman's just a vehicle for chiropractic. And so we're looking at what is the role that we can play in enhancing chiropractic, and Sherman's one of those ways. So we hope that we do a noble job of it. We want to make sure that we do maintain the purity of chiropractic. If for nothing else, because I want to make Tom and Betty Gilardi proud.
Amen. Wonderful. Mic drop. Okay.
There you go. I honestly, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. It's always fun when we're together anyway. But come on up and we'll do another philosophy night during nice weather where it won't rain so we can hold out in the amphitheater. But you're welcome to come to the house anytime, and we'll do that again. That was fun.
Well, thanks. We'll do it. I have one shameless plug. I
Go.
have we're doing our innate newborn workshop at Sherman Chiropractic February 1st. And we've had a lot of students really excited about it, and a lot of people, docs are coming in. And so we do it's the approach that we're coming in. We're clearing subluxations, finding them in newborns. People are afraid very often, or they're using tools that really are making up for maybe they don't know what to do yet. And so we're teaching people what to do to not be fearful of stepping into adjustments with brand new babies, pregnant moms, and all those things. So I always say this: a better world starts with well-adjusted babies.
100%.
Okay. And
100%.
I know they get great instruction in doing that at Sherman.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is just in addition to what they've already received at Sherman College of Chiropractic. And, I feel blessed to be there. And I thank you very much for being with me, inviting me up there as well.
It's a pleasure. We're happy to have you.
Thank you very much. You have an awesome day, and we'll
Thank you.
talk soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See ya.